baby on the way in July. So
Let's go.
yeah,
Congratulations.
got a little girl, so it'll be exciting. But I think getting ahead of all of that and like knowing that was coming down the line and the teams kind of jumped on board. It was weird. It kind of became a bit of a rallying point for them, I guess, because they knew that, I was going to make the fall semester hard. So everybody's just been, I've got the whole year scheduled, man. Like we're done. Like I've got it all. The training plan's
Really?
written, schedule's done. It's now just like implementation. So solid.
Oh, it's nice. First of all, congratulations
Thank you.
that you have a new family member on the way, and that it's fun. It's cool to have that sense of like everything's already set up. It feels like probably a lot of the work is done ahead.
Yeah. Not being so reactionary is nice. We can get into it however we want to, but I think that like coming out of COVID, you lost a sense of the routine, and then the year out of COVID didn't really help you reestablish that because there were so many ups and downs and changes and whatever. And then last year was really our attempt to like find our footing, go through it, and remember everything that you forgot having been out of it for, almost really like 2.5 years. So,
Yeah, no kidding.
yeah. But
Well, I'd love to kind of just kick it off with I always start with the same question. So, who are you? And tell me a little about your program, and then talk a little bit about what brings you down to the boathouse every day.
sure. So I'm Craig Doan. I'm the head coach of the San Diego State men's crew, and been head coach here since 2020, coaching out here at SDSU since 2016. And what brings me out to the boathouse every day? People. I think it's the same for what the athletes speak to. Same deal for the coaches. We love the people that we get to work with, and makes the work easy.
Yeah, I think when you have good people around you, it's the best. I mean, those are the strongest teams that I see. I also think about a high performance team. Like, it's not necessarily going to the Olympics. I mean, obviously that is high performance, but it's more like, do you trust your teammates to do what they're going to do, all these different things?
Yeah.
Having a good team helps that. Tell me a little bit about how the team's structured, what a week in the life would look like, what type of competitions you guys are in.
Sure. So we're a club sport on campus under the Associated Students Administration. So we have, people that we work with within Associated Students that help kind of connect us to the university and run things in that regard. But just because we're a club, we tend to not run our program that way or really talk to it like it's a club. We want to go out there. We want to win. We get to compete in some of the biggest races out here on the West Coast with Weira's serving as our regionals before going out to ACRA's, if that happens. And Crew Classic is a big one for us as well, particularly in waters, and so always want to hold face there and do well. And so with big races like that and just the area that we're in, I'm sure some other coaches would disagree, but I would argue it's probably the deepest ACRA group in the country, in the Southwest here, and just how many top-notch programs there are. So, and they're all within a couple hours. So,
no kidding, right? I mean, having that type of fierce competition around is, I think, really motivational, but also can be a bit discouraging if you're constantly getting beat down. How do you like to motivate the athletes?
I think it's changed. There was a time when it was all about the competition and, winning races and all of that. And I think that's great. It's never really been my biggest motivator, but I think that a lot of the athletes that were coming out here, seeing the league that we're in and consistently seeing fast crews, it just kind of like, all of a sudden it's like, well, I want to be that fast. So that competition, that drive is always easy. But now I think coming out of COVID, it's really been more about like giving them some autonomy in the process. It's not always easy. I think they have to like take that on and want that.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I think that the athletes really, they have so much information at their fingertips. Really all you need to do as a coach is just kind of guide them through some of the intricacies and nuances of it, so that they can put it in place. And that's been really good for our group. They've really taken that as a point of emphasis and leading the team forward. I'm excited for this year.
Yeah, me too. I mean, coming down, spending some time with the team, it really showed, I think, a model for what it means for athletes to take a lot of ownership in the program.
Yeah.
What are some things that you do either on a daily, weekly, monthly basis that help drive that athlete ownership, or how do you frame some of these conversations that you have?
I think that's been the big shift for us this year, is being able to not have to lay the groundwork for everything. We've got the schedule written. Everybody knows what it is. So it's not about coming up with all the foundational work and creating everything from scratch. And it just allows them to be creative. So I think, being able to go into the meetings, we have exec board meetings every 2 weeks now over the summer, which are basically just check-ins on a few of the items that, are kind of our priority to get taken care of as we go into the fall. And not having to go in and dictate everything, but just being able to start those conversations and say, okay, so what do you want to do? This is the day that it's due. What do you want to do? And just sitting back, I tend to talk a lot. So it has been an exercise in taking a step back and just shutting up and listening more.
I'm the same way. I think you have to give them the opportunity to think it through and to talk it through themselves, because then it's almost like they come to it themselves rather than you putting it down on them. Yeah,
absolutely. And you can use experience to kind of guide them away from some of the things that you're we've done that a few times and it hasn't worked. But for the most part, we're doing things differently this year, and it's just come from letting go a little bit. And honestly, people are more engaged and excited to do it, which just means the follow through's there. And really, it's just about allowing them to be excited for something.
Yeah, no kidding, right? I mean, it's a tough sport, rowing crew, and being excited every morning at 5 a.m. on top of your academics, on top of everything else. It takes a special type of person, but I think it also takes a special type of environment to get that excitement. What are some things that you see really get them excited?
Honestly, we get pretty nerdy. I'm a physiology guy.
Yeah.
And I think that they just they like all the resources that are out there. So they're always bringing questions to practice, and we're trying to always do something new. I think just changing it up keeps their ability to we have to do some things over and over, right? And we're a repetitive movement sport. So how do you bring something different every day? We started doing warm-ups where I'd put these little plastic flags in the ground and they have to carry somebody over to pick them out, and they'd team up and go just silly little things to just bring a little energy, make it a little different. Yeah, we're going to run 5x5 today, but our warm up is going to be different. And I let them, they chose all our warm ups, just
okay.
We came together as a team as pick 3 warm ups that you guys would like to rotate through or do however you want. You get to choose every single day from these 3 warm ups what you want to do. And every day they'd show up and, okay, as a boat, you get to decide, go out and do your warm up. Let's meet here at this point. And honestly, they took those warm ups more seriously.
Interesting. So by giving them a little bit of agency, it's like a sandbox, right? Once you're in the sandbox, you can do whatever you want, but you got to stay in the box.
Yeah.
But that little bit of agency really let them buy in, it sounded like.
Yeah. I was, we say, okay, you've got 10 minutes that you can do whatever you think is going to be most valuable to you this morning. And then the rest of practice, I mean, it's all like we meet here, we run 5x5, we turn around and paddle home, like, or whatever it is. They already know what that is. But like to start the day, they get to like choose. So I think that's really helped, and we try to spread that out into other things as well. So.
And then they get the reinforcement of choosing. Something that I think a lot about with athletes are like, how can you reinforce good decisions? How can you reinforce good behavior? Yeah. That's a lot of what we focus on as a company, is that we want to reward the really good decisions that are made. What are some other decisions that you try to reward for athletes?
Consistency in
that's the big one, right?
Decisions, right? And so it's not always about, like, we try to reward as much as we possibly can. It's not easy, and everybody's sense of reward is different. Like, we've got a grab bag potluck thing. Like, I'll hit up like Five Below or stores, whatever, and grab some like trinkets and toys and stuff like that. And it's like, you have a good day. Like you get it's little stuff, but then I think that's where some of the autonomy comes in, is like, we reward them by giving them more and more slack. Like, the more consistent you are in making good, healthy decisions for your sake, for the team's sake, whatever, the more leniency and kind of freedom you have in when it comes time for us to cut loose and do something different. Like, I don't mind. Like, there will be days when it's like, okay, you decide practice. Like, we're going to have this hard week of ergs, and we do like some team stuff, whatever. And at the end of that week on Friday, like, one or two guys get to decide what we do for Saturday's practice. And so it's like, what are the fun workouts that you guys like to do? What are the fun drills you like to do? And then we pick up on that. We notice that, and we start doing those more because we know those are fun to them.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember UCLA guy myself, and John Wooden's always been a big inspiration, influence. And like him giving like practice is the reward, or being on the team is the reward to the work that you're putting in, and being able to reframe it that way. Yeah. And you could have some other, like, we get the medals from races, we get the fun trinkets for whatever goofy thing it was. Like, that stuff is important. And because it leads into that sense of, just being here is a real reward. And you start to build that in. But when you're a freshman in college, it's hard to see that through. It's also hard to see when you're a young athlete in high school. It's like, what's the payoff? Like, what am I here to do? And where are we going?
And that's interesting as you look, because there's no pro league, right?
Yeah. That's right. Well, I mean, and with the majority of sports, the majority of athletes, there's no pro league. Even in basketball and football, like 99.99% of those athletes aren't going professional.
Yeah,
so, and I don't think people are lying to themselves saying that. It's more like, what are you trying to do here with your time? Because it's still very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Looking at your own long-term goals and your mindset for coaching, what would you recommend to other coaches that are starting out or trying to find their footing? I know that you are so bought in on your program, but you also have other commitments. What are some things you'd recommend to other coaches that are getting started?
I think particularly getting started is focus on learning how to communicate and talk with your athletes. Like, focus on the soft skills more than the technique and drills and training plan, because you get to a point where everybody's doing the same stuff, right? You're going to grow as a coach and get to the point where it's like, we all have pretty much the same training plan. We all have pretty much similar resources and whatnot. The thing that sets you up for long-term success beyond those resources is just like how you can connect with your athletes, and that's a really hard skill to learn. There's a lot of like CYA stuff that you've got to make sure that, liability is taken care of. But But beyond that, it's all about the relationships. And if we don't have a professional league to send them off to, they've got to get something out of your sport that is not just your sport. And that comes from the relationships. And I think really diving into that sets you up for enjoying coaching longer, because if it's just about we all get nerdy about, catch angles and, work through and, like stuff like that and different training plans and everything. But your biggest impact's on the people.
That's right. And I think that when the athletes start to see that and buy into that, that's when they really feel like the team's a good place to hang out. What, for communication, what do you focus on, or how do you think about communicating with athletes?
I think that changes every day, to be honest. The more I read, and that's kind of the thing that I'm focusing on personally in my own development the most, is being positive. It's so easy, right? And our sport's hard, all right? For coaches, it's hard being a coach. There's so much that goes into it beyond just practice and all of that stuff. And rowing tends to be kind of low on the totem pole in terms of priorities for a lot of people, administrators and whatnot. And that's not a knock on them. That's just the status of our sport. And so you have to do a lot of work. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it, and so it's easy to get bogged down, and not letting that affect what you do with the team, I think is really important. And just being able to bring a positive energy to practice is, I don't think there's anything you can do for the culture or the forward progress of your team that matters more than that.
Well, something very straightforward that you can do on a day-to-day basis, like you can actually work towards in practice, because there's so much other stuff that can go wrong, but at least you can have the next most important thing to work on, right? You can say, okay, well, all the skag is no longer on the boat, and half the team decided that today was not the day to show up to practice. But you come back. I mean, these are just the reality of situations that a lot of people face.
Yeah.
So then what can you do to frame that as, like, setting the expectation that certain things aren't acceptable, but then again, you still want the team to feel like they're moving towards something, or there's a lesson, or there's something in there.
Yeah. I think that you can have those hard moments without being negative. Now that's hard to I'm guilty of having done it. Like, I'm not trying to speak from a higher place here. It's just I think that is a skill that, as we go on, becomes more and more important, because there are so many hardships in our sport. There are hard days. There's hard months, weeks, times a year. Race doesn't go well. It's easy to be down on people. I think it's harder, but it's also more worthwhile to just, in those moments, remember that, like, you can learn the same lesson and still be a good person about it.
Yeah. And it's a practice, right? It's stuff that we're all working on together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You're going to fail, but I think it's worth trying.
You have to. It's the only way we get better. Thinking about things that make it easier, that what we've done with CrewLAB and what we've done, like, over the years, just trying to understand how technology can play a role in making our jobs a little easier. How do you see that trend? I mean, we have it across all different areas of the world, but how can coaches really benefit from technology to make things a little easier?
Oh, I mean, I think it's paramount anymore, particularly with the athletes having grown up with it, kind of at their disposal, and it becoming almost, it's a part of the industry now. It's a part of the sport. Like, how many peach systems are out there? How many heart rate monitor, groupings are out there? Like, I think that it's really important, and stuff like CrewLAB for us, we've talked a bit about it, but, like, for me, it was really important to the culture of our program, because we needed something a little bit more unifying in terms of, like, how we communicate, but also to kind of maintain that positivity. Like, brought up, like, streaks and stuff like that, where it's just, like, reinforcing, like, those good habits, right? And being able to to reward them kind of in a way that they're like their social life and regular life is built around getting rewards that way. I think it's really helped. You know?
Well, I'm glad that it has, and more so, I'm glad that it helps have an impact on the athletes, that they feel like they're less likely to quit the team or whatever they feel like that. For me, that's really what gets me here every day, is helping the athletes experience. What are you looking forward to? I know we only have a few minutes left, but what are you looking forward to this summer or next year for the season?
Well, summer I alluded to. I got baby Parker on the way here in a few weeks, so that'll
Baby
be
Parker, let's go.
Yeah, baby girl, and then this season I'm just really excited about this group that we've got coming up. I think that the team did a really good job in selecting the leadership, and those people are stepping up, and they've done so much work getting us ready for this next year. I think that it'll show on and off the water for our team, and I'm really excited for them to reap those rewards.
Heck yeah! Well, I'm excited to see how the Aztecs do this fall. There's a lot of good energy all the time that I've been down there in San Diego, so I look forward to seeing things kick off again.
Yeah, we'll have to get you down here for Crew Classic again.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Well, Craig, it's been a pleasure. If there's anything else, again, don't hesitate to reach out. And later this summer, this fall, hopefully we can get together in San Diego again.
Sounds good. Appreciate it. Thank you, David.